My name is Alyssa Chen, and I am staff member at the Education Justice Coalition of Vermont, as well as a Jewish Vermonter and a member of Jewish Voice for Peace, JVP, which is hosting this press conference. Jewish Voice for Peace is the largest progressive Jewish anti-Zionist organization in the world. We're organizing a grassroots, multiracial, cross-class, intergenerational movement of U.S. Jews in solidarity with the Palestinian freedom struggle. Okay. Guided by a vision of equity, dignity, and justice.
Sorry. You just have to keep these to a second.
Okay, got it, thank you. Public schools are strongholds of democracy, free speech, and community building, which is why the federal government and billionaires want to dismantle them. Repression is rapidly increasing throughout the country, and we need to be prepared to defend public schools and other democratic institutions. The state of Vermont needs to set up firewalls for freedom as termed by the ACLU. As the movement for Palestinian liberation gains more power and voice, we see increased repression in schools. Academic freedom for educators and students is a key protection we need in this moment. We are seeing banned books, threats to educators who teach about Palestine, and attacks on anti-racist and LGBTQIA+ curriculum. Right now, we are asking state representatives to pass an academic freedom bill combining H-168 and H-615. These bills would protect social justice education, protect educators from retaliation, and ensure political speech is not falsely classified or categorized as harassment. We will also offer updates on the status and factual basis of our ethics complaint against the 5 Vermont legislators who traveled as guests of the Israeli government last September. First up, I'd like to invite up Joanna Caldwell, who works in Middle Vermont, and Sophie Castle from Richmond, who are both members of JVP and part of the L'Chaim Collective.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Joanna Caldwell, and I'm a member of JVP. Jewish Voice for Peace of Vermont, New Hampshire has filed ethics complaints against Representatives Byron, Galfetti, Greer, Gregoire, and Austin because these legislators have accepted gifts that are expressly prohibited by the Vermont Governmental Ethics Statute. These complaints are not based on our opinions as Jewish Vermonters who support freedom for Palestine, but rather they are based on the facts from the legislators themselves, from Israeli government websites, and from Vermont and Israel-based media reports. What we need our fellow Vermonters to understand is that JVP filed these ethics complaints in December because public servants aren't allowed to receive gifts, especially from foreign governments, and these legislators are in violation of the laws of our state.
Right.
An update is that on January 16th, the Vermont Ethics Commission sent JVP's complaints to the House Ethics Panel. We reviewed 5 reports that the ethics panel issued in this biennium. What we see is a reluctance to sanction bad behavior, a process that lacks transparency, and a practice of not even naming the legislators against whom the complaints are lodged. So why even make this ethics complaint? The people of Vermont deserve to know that these 5 legislators showed at best an appalling lack of judgment and at worst an egregious willingness to whitewash a genocide.
That's right.
Israeli government officials know how much the people of the world stand with Palestine. And their response is to try and convince the public, including legislators from our brave little state, that criticism of Israel's unrelenting violence against Palestinians is anti-Semitism. Don't fall for it.
That's right.
Thank you, Joanna.
My name is Sophie Cassell. I'm a Richmond resident, student teacher who is getting ready to teach in the Vermont public schools and member of Jewish Voice for Peace. It is critical that we have a shared understanding of what we mean by ethics. Ethics include the behavior of our elected officials and whether they prioritize the needs of their constituents or the pressures of larger forces like corporations, big donors, or foreign governments. Ethics also includes our right and responsibility as citizens to hold our elected officials to the standards that they took an oath to uphold when they took office. It is clear that by accepting a lavish gift from a foreign government that is actively seeking to influence U.S. policies, that these senators are in violation of the oath that they took.
That's right.
We have to acknowledge that there are people in Vermont who are invested in shutting down any speech that aligns with Palestinian liberation. This is part of a larger attempt to shut down dissent, grassroots organizing, and freedom of speech in this country as a whole. People of conscience are looking at our world in horror right now. We are distraught at the kidnappings and detention of our neighbors and coworkers around the country and here in Vermont as recently as yesterday. We know this repression has already come to Vermont. Occupation and repression is what our Palestinian siblings have been living under for decades. As Jewish Vermonters of conscience, we understand that the repression of others leads to the repression of us all, whether it is Palestinian homes being demolished in the West Bank, the repression of free speech on our college campuses, or the kidnapping of our immigrant neighbors in the US. An injury to one is an injury to all, and no one deserves to live in fear. Our safety is intertwined. Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to invite Ruth Spates, who is a student at U32 High School.
Hello, my name is Rue. I am 16 years old, and I am attending U32 High School in the 10th grade. I am a non-binary youth, openly queer and Jewish. I came out as genderqueer in 2nd grade and have continuously experienced hate and misunderstanding around this identity. I am scared that we as a country are forgetting what happens when we ignore history. Scared that we are no longer fostering a school environment that cherishes curiosity and growth. I frequently participate in conversations and debates around gender, immigration, and the Palestinian genocide in school with my peers. As a Jewish student, it feels absolutely laughable that grown adults in positions of power are comparing open discussion and expression around Palestine to be even remotely similar to anti-Semitism. To even suggest that criticizing a government is anti-Semitic is outright dangerous propaganda.
That's right.
We must continue to converse, share opinions, and learn about world history without being accused of discrimination. Yes, I do feel uncomfortable discussing the history of my ancestors. We all should. There is no reason to avoid the discussion and education around topics regarding the state of Israel. It's the same reason schools must continue to teach about slavery.
That's right.
It will make people uncomfortable because it is uncomfortable. The last segregated school closed in 2016. These issues are not distant past, they are active issues we are still dealing with the repercussions of today. I strongly believe that when we don't engage in these conversations, ignorance will permeate American classrooms, communities, and the greater political climate. This is why protecting free speech in schools is so important and vital to the preservation of our democracy. Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to invite up Harmony DeVoe from Harwood Union High School.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Harmony Baldivo. I'm a member of the Education Justice Coalition and the State Youth Council, and I'm in 11th grade at Harwood Union High School. I'm here today to express my fullest support for Bills H615 and H168. When I moved to Vermont from Boston, I noticed the lack of representation of diverse identities. In my school, I observed racist remarks and jokes, but I didn't see a group where students could talk about it or change it. So I founded CARE, Community Action for Racial Equity. Last summer, CARE hosted a social justice camp. We brought in a guest speaker to teach about the Palestine-Israel conflict. We wanted to understand it as a human rights issue and to learn why standing up for people thousands of miles away matters. But when we planned a community event to explore these issues by showing and discussing the film The Encampments, we experienced community pushback. Our intentions were questioned. Some saw our event as anti-Semitism. The Agency of Education and the Attorney General were even contacted. We felt the weight of being silenced. We didn't back down, but we did listen. We met with community members, heard their fears, and added perspectives to our event. We were able to do this because our principal and superintendent stood by us. They didn't just tolerate our political speech, they uplifted and protected it. They understood a crucial distinction. Challenging political discourse is not the same as harassment. Not every student in Vermont has an administration as courageous as mine. Bill H-615 ensures that every school is an intellectually open environment. It creates clear guidelines to protect lawful advocacy, including support for Palestinian human rights, while drawing a firm line against actual harassment. But free speech is only half the battle. We also need to be taught the history and the tools to use it. At a time when the federal government is removing terms like anti-racism, BIPOC, discrimination, diverse, and ethnicity from its documents, we cannot allow Vermont to restrict teaching social justice and equity in classrooms. Bill H-168 is our safeguard. It ensures educators are protected when they teach the truth about systems of oppression, power, and privilege, and that LGBTQIA+ youth are safe and validated in their identities with the resources they need. I want to graduate an informed citizen, and learning about equity is a requirement for being a diplomatic, mindful citizen. If we don't teach history in our classrooms, we will continue to repeat its mistakes in our school hallways and throughout our communities. When we protect a teacher's right to teach and a student's right to speak, we are protecting the very function of our democracy. H-615 protects our voices, freedom of expression, and discourse today, and H-168 protects our future by allowing the fostering of informed citizens. To my fellow Vermonters, I urge you to email the House Committee on Education and submit testimony sharing how restricting topics like social equity, race, and gender would hinder your ability to teach or learn. We must demonstrate that protecting free speech while preventing harassment is vital. I urge legislators to vote yes. Specifically, I call on House Education Chair, Representative Peter Conlin, to please schedule a vote to move H-615 and H-168 out of committee. Moving these bills forward is a critical step to protect student speech, affirm diverse identities, and ensure that Vermont's education system fosters inclusivity through its teaching. Let's choose education over ignorance and move these bills forward. Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to welcome up Perry Bellel-Handelman, who is a social studies teacher at Montpelier High School, as well as a member of the Education Justice Coalition and JVP.
Hello. My name is Perry Bellel-Handelman, and I'm speaking today as a history teacher at Montpelier High School, a mother of preschool-aged children, and a Jewish Vermonter. Just this past week, I started teaching my annual Global Studies unit on Nazi fascism and genocide. The essential questions of this unit are: how did the Nazi Party gain the German people's acceptance of authoritarian power and their complicity in genocide? What can we learn about how everyday people resisted the Nazis for how we can protect our democracy and our community today? And how do we live up to the calls from concentration camp survivors who said, never again, and never again for anyone? I couldn't think of 3 questions more relevant to us today as we consider how our public schools will continue to protect the essential dignity of all students and foster a robust culture of democracy and equity for all Vermonters. In my classroom, we began this unit with an exploration of the long history of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and white supremacy in European culture, and how these supremacist ideologies were exploited by the Nazis, as they have been by so many tyrants in history. The proposed legislation, just outlined so beautifully, requires the state to develop a curriculum to support all Vermont students to learn about the origins and danger of religious and racial bias. Never has this curriculum been as needed. Next, in my class, and I just did this lecture yesterday, we look at how the Nazi Party and other fascist regimes come to power. Students look at the 14 warning signs of fascism, and they uncover that authoritarianism is built on the suppression of speech and the indoctrination of young people. In the early days of a fascist regime's rise to power, there is nothing more important we can do than protect the free speech rights of our young people and provide them the tools to build compassion and understanding across difference. Yet, in our current political context, we have a federal government that is threatening public schools for doing just this, as our state law currently mandates to do. We are threatened for protecting non-binary students from discrimination, for teaching basic biology, for including the experiences and perspectives of historically marginalized groups, which this state in recent years has put into law as something we need to figure out how to do across our disciplines. And we are threatened for exposing students to any information that might cause them to question any part of Trump's domestic or foreign policy. And in particular, as has already been pointed out, educators like myself who address the history of Israel-Palestine just as we would any other topic from a critical thinking and multiple narratives approach are targeted with false accusations of anti-Semitism.
That's right.
Chilling discussion and investigation of this key piece of history that is informing so much of our government's actions today. And obscuring the true meaning of anti-Semitism and our ability to combat it, which as a Jewish mother, I deeply, deeply care about and see the impact of that on my Jewish students as well. In this climate, educators are at best experiencing deep anxiety if they are true to their professional values. And at worst, and I've heard many reports of this, are actively self-censoring their curriculum or being instructed to do so by their administrators. Meanwhile, students are dropping out of social justice clubs and are internalizing the message that we must stay silent on any issue that might spark controversy or disagreement. I fear for how vulnerable we will become as a state if this trend is to continue. The good news is that we can also learn from those who have resisted before us. From the brave acts of German students who spoke out against the Holocaust or the actions taken by Denmark to protect all Danes. The passage of H-168 and H-615, S-271 by this legislature will bolster the courage of school districts, educators, and students across Vermont to not bend to the will of tyrants, the culture of hate, or the ignorance of censorship. Our legislators have the power to make our state one where we teach our children to honor the inherent dignity of all and where we develop them as critical thinkers capable of engaging in a democratic society. Thank you.
Next up, we welcome Samia Abbas, who is a member of the Vermont Coalition for Palestinian Liberation and works with the Apartheid Free Communities campaign.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Hi, my name is Samia. I'm a Palestinian-American Vermonter. I'm a member of the Vermont Coalition for Palestinian Liberation, and I'm here today to talk about Palestine and why Palestine is a local issue. In the West Bank, Palestinians, including my family, live under Israeli military law, while Israeli settlers are governed by civic law. Palestinians face over 800 military checkpoints, in addition to roadblocks, permit systems, and an enormous separation wall that keeps them from going to work, school, farming their land, visiting places of worship, seeing their families. 60% of Palestinian land is under full Israeli military control and has been expropriated for settlements, military zones, or quote-unquote state land. Palestinian construction is heavily restricted, and Palestinian-owned structures, meaning Palestinian homes, are demolished constantly. Palestinians in the territories occupied by Israel live under Israeli control but cannot vote in the regime that ultimately controls their borders, the land, air, sea, their population registries, their resources, and their lives. This is apartheid.
That's right.
This is what Israel stands for. And this is what 5 Vermont legislators, Representatives Barong, Greer, Gregoire, Austin, and Galfetti, stand for in choosing to go on an all-expenses-paid junket to Israel at the same time that it commits genocide in Gaza and chokes the life out of the West Bank.
That's right.
At the same time as Israeli officials are indicted for war crimes. This is what they stand for as they kneeled on stolen Palestinian land and planted a tree on behalf of Vermonters, while settlers uprooted olive trees and prevented Palestinian farmers from accessing their land and crops, and beat women and children as they attempted to protect their livelihoods. This is what Barong, Greer, Gregoire, Austin, and Galfetti stand for. Now they're back, and they want to stop Vermonters from speaking the truth. They want immunity from responsibility for their actions. As sponsors of the bill H310, 4 of them want to penalize solidarity with Palestine, muzzle Vermonters from criticism of a genocidal power, and stop us from speaking the truth about what apartheid is. I'm a Palestinian American and a Vermonter. These 5 do not speak for me. I believe they don't speak for the values of most Vermonters, and they must be held responsible for their complicity.
That's right.
Last March, 5 towns in Vermont voted to become apartheid-free municipalities. This town meeting day, that's right, 20 plus more towns will vote on the same ballot measure or see it introduced on the floor. This shows us what Vermont stands for and the anti-apartheid movement we are building. H13 introduced this session would declare our state apartheid-free and give us a chance to stand for something right and strong and steadfast in this time of growing repression and authoritarianism. It gives us a chance to stand for the liberation of Palestinians and all oppressed peoples. We can't let these legislators dictate who we are as people, as a collective. Let's make Vermont apartheid-free and show them what that truly means. Thank you.
Thanks so much to all the speakers for highlighting the current threats to free speech and academic freedom and the pressing need for continued solidarity and voice for Palestinian liberation. Now we'll take questions, if there's any questions. I don't know if you want to answer questions or
We'll see. We have about 7 or 8 minutes for questions. Where's the establishment media? Good question. Let's go find them after we wrap up here.
How can we help?
Do you want to talk? I wasn't ready for questions.
How can somebody help?
How can somebody help? Since we're in this building today, the most important thing we can do today is communicate one-on-one with our reps and senators. Let them know that we support the ethics complaint against the 5 reps who were wined and dined by the Israeli government. Let them know that we'd like to see some action on these bills protecting free speech from the education committees on both sides of the aisle. We know they're incredibly tied up with the governor's restructuring agenda for public schools. But this is important too, as we heard from our teachers and students. This is something that really can't wait. And in case everybody doesn't know, at 1 o'clock, we're convening downstairs in room 10, and we'll be doing a slide presentation describing our Jewish perspective on this whole spectrum of issues and how they relate to our lives here in Vermont. And there's really good snacks. Come join us. Maria, is there enough time for your presentation since we have some time?
Sure, it's about 6 minutes long.
Yeah, go for it.
Ready?
Maria Schumann.
You can also support by coming to our Watch and Talk event on March 5th at the Harwood Library to watch the encampments and have a following discussion.
Actually, could we get? Oh, no, I think I have it. I think I got it.
We go around and watch.
Is it stuck? Let's just do it without the accordion.
Get wet.
Stuck. You hold one side and hold the other. There, it's a good step. So, Maria Schumann with bread and puppet. ourselves. And on the graves of those 3 little children, 3 red, red roses grew, and they grew so bold, they grew so bonny, they grew to the sun, and they grew so bold, they grew so bonny, they grew to the sun, and the swallow